Hey everyone, welcome to the 10th episode of the What's the Deal with podcast. Today we have Elk with us, and I'm Fleur, and joined by Straw.
Hello everyone.
Elk, would you like to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes. I don't know what to say. I'm Elk.
Not many people do.
I feel like most people know me in here, but yeah. Speedrunner of Horizon, multiple world records, yada yada yada, all that jazz, all the good stuff.
Professional speedrunner, basically.
Don't make a living off it quite yet.
And you are Seth asking, who are you?
Bigger question is, who is Seth?
Who is Seth?
The master moderator of the Horizon community.
So yeah, I agreed to be on the podcast today, and hopefully we'll have a bit of fun.
That is kind of the aim of this.
Yeah.
Hope so. Right, Fleur?
Right, so Elk, how did you get into Horizon speedrunning? Because everyone always says, oh, they found your channel, but how did you get into it?
Yeah, so since we have a lot of time, let's just get into the full story, I guess.
Okay.
So I was already into speedrunning prior to Horizon. Let me see, where do I want to start it?
Yeah, what games did you speedrun before Horizon?
Yeah, so I think I started speedrunning in like late 2016 was when I first attempted some runs of random games. That was also the time I started watching two particular streamers, which kind of inspired me to do it myself. Anthony Calver, who runs The Last of Us, who was a very small streamer at the time, now he's quite big. And then I also watched another guy that was averaging 80 viewers at the time called Dark Viper AU. He also turned out to get pretty big. GTA 5 speedrunner. So yeah, started watching both of them in like, I think it was late 2016. Let me see. Then, got inspired by watching their streams to try out some runs. Started with games from my childhood. I feel like a lot of speedrunners do that, which were Spyro and Crash games. But I did it very casually in the beginning. It was like, I'll just do a run maybe once a week or something like that. Very chill. Eventually did like Last of Us and GTA 5 because that was what I was watching.
Isn't GTA 5 like really long, or is that something else?
I mean, the full game run is like, at the time I think it was like 6 hours and 45 minutes.
That is pretty long.
Category is like classic percent, but they have like a short category called Trevor percent, where you basically do the first. You play through up until the first heist in the game, which I guess you could say is like Act 1 of GTA 5. So I played that, which is only like an hour long or something like that.
That's a lot more reasonable, yeah.
Yeah. So the longest thing I was doing at the time was like, I guess main game Last of Us, but I think I only did one run of that ever. I did more Left Behind because it was shorter at the time.
How long is Last of Us?
Last of Us is 3 hours, or just under 3 hours if you good.
Okay, so,
yeah. At least at the time, I feel like. Actually, at the time I ran it, like, only like a world record was below 3 hours, I think. Or I'd just gotten below it. Obviously, things change over time.
It would be weird if they didn't improve over time, so.
Yeah. So just kind of casually doing runs for a while of like I said, those kinds of games. And then took a break from gaming at the end of 2016 all the way until like summer of 2017, which is was at the time the Crash Insane trilogy came out, which I then started playing because, the remakes of Crash. Got into speedrunning them again as well, but also very casually in the beginning. And that's when my roommate also recommended that I should try this game called Horizon. Because it's
Never
really good.
That one.
Yeah, it was like, nobody has heard of it. Small indie title. So played Horizon. and fell in love with it and played it like multiple times. And at the time, I was starting to speedrun more and more with Crash. And I would say at the time, I was pretty decent at it. I think I was 6 in Crash 3, which was like my best time. And Crash has a lot of runners, so 6th place was pretty solid. But then they found a very annoying movement tech, or it was really annoying at the time because nobody really understood how it worked, called hop sliding, which is like super easy to do these days, but at the time it was stupid and annoying. So that made me kind of fall out of Crash and stop running it because I didn't want to do runs with it. And then I had played Horizon for like, I don't know, I think I'd played through it like 8 times or something at the time. And I was like, I should try speedrunning it. Because that felt like the only thing I had left to do. And so I did, I guess. Ended up looking up the run on speedrun.com because I already knew about it. And yeah. Then I watched the world record at the time was by some guy called Everyday Aussie. Might have heard of him. Yeah. Watched his runs, tried to replicate his strats and all that. Did some runs, started out on like easy because that was the lowest difficulty speedruns were done on at the time. Yeah, I had fun with it. It was pretty fun, but also I was like, nobody's really doing a lot of ultra hard runs. So I was like, I should probably do that and see if I can, get really good times on that.
Snag a world record or two.
Like nobody was really running ultra hard at the time, so it was more like get some runs on the board, I guess. Because most people that had done runs at the time had done like 1, maybe 2, and then moved on, or gone back to like easier difficulties. Because there wasn't a whole lot of runners active back then, of course. I think at the time I started, it was probably only me, Aussie, and Sinful that were actively doing runs. And a guy called Anderson did a few runs.
I don't think I've ever heard of it, but like genuinely this time.
Yeah, Anderson, he did like a little bit of any percent, I think, but also a bit of hunting grounds. And yeah, he just fell out because he was also running a lot of Final Fantasy and Resident Evil. And something happened where he got way more focused on school, which is fair enough,
Yeah.
Stopped running games in general, and I think his time is no longer on the board because something happened and he deleted his speedrun.com account. He still shows up in my chat time to time, so... for a while he had the record in both the Cauldron categories, so... But, yeah. What else? Yeah, then I got into ultra hard running, and yeah, and then I kind of fell in love with that because felt like more of a challenge, and I had a lot of spare time at the time, so I wanted to see how good I could get at it, and just kept going with it. Started with the Frozen Wilds because it was just a shorter run, and nobody had done a Frozen Wild speedrun at the time on ultra hard. So I was like, somebody's got to do it. So I did it. And got my time to, I think I got like a 1:16, which was like my first Deathless run, which I was really happy with. And then I moved on to the main game because I was like, okay, let me see how well I can do at the main game, and started New Game Plus Ultra Hard, which you probably know is my main category now, the one I like the most. And I ran it on the first day, and I did really well in the first run where I think I was on record pace, but I died twice on Ridge Defense in like my very first run. Yeah.
Even on New Game Plus.
Yeah, and I mean back then it was like pretty scuffed. I also wasn't using any Frozen Wilds weapons because that was until later we realized just how good those weapons were.
Did you just use freeze bombs at the time to freeze things?
Yes. Freeze bombs were seen as better. freeze bombs were at the time seen as better than the ice rail because then you could do it at distance. But again, it was like I think it took like 2 weeks until I started using some of the Frozen Wilds weapons because I think I saw some videos of a guy using them to great effect, and I was like, that could work. So yeah.
Again, no one really, but like even if the freeze of, for example, the ice rail wasn't taken into account, when the what's it called, the big ice spike attack thing, wouldn't that alone make the ice rail worth it?
Well, the ice rail was only last year we started using that in runs.
Really?
Yeah. It was seen as way too slow for the longest time.
Because of the charge up.
Yeah, the charge up was just too slow, and like there wasn't really any enemies that was seen where it could really be effective against. So I guess we can get into that later as we move on with the history. If you just want to go through, I guess, more Horizon speedrun history. I don't know how we gonna go from here, but
I'm not sure. Also, sorry for a quick interruption, but Straw, people in the chat are saying that the background is very choppy.
Choppy because I have Horizon up in the background, and I was trying to get some good pictures, so I put the quality to ultra, and my PC can't handle it, so I'll turn down the settings.
Come on, Straw.
Ultra settings are very taxing.
I didn't even have them on ultra, I had them on high.
Yeah.
I don't have a good PC.
I mean, I don't think my PC does it very well. The only time I use ultra on like the PC version is to get like thumbnail photos.
Yeah. But I mean, Horizon is a pretty intensive game for PC and PS4, so...
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't think it is on the PlayStation. Maybe not so much.
My PS4 almost burns to death every time I launch the game, so...
True, but I mean, to be fair, the CPU in the PS4 is still also kind of underrated. It's actually quite good for what it is.
Yeah.
Which is why it can, even though it sounds like a jet engine, it can still, play God of War and Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, games like that,
I wonder how the old PS4 is going to do with Forbidden West.
The what? Sorry?
If you use an old PS4, like a very old one, and then have Forbidden West, that's going to be hell.
Well, I don't know. I'm not really too worried about the PS4 version for Forbidden West, really. I think it's going to be fine.
I hope so.
But don't expect it to be anything more than 30 FPS. It's going to be very much locked to 30 FPS, and I think you're going to see some extremely long loading times. Would be my prediction.
That's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, of course, but I would kind of hope that the game would be very optimized towards PS4, because I'm probably not going to be able to get my hands on a PS5 for a long time, so...
Yeah, and also I'd imagine they're probably just gonna have like some sort of fuck to limit the render distance, I would imagine. Of course, they have not shown any PS4 gameplay, and I doubt they're gonna show any of it prior to launch.
I mean, why market with worse gameplay when you can market with the better gameplay?
Exactly. I mean, it would be the consumer-friendly way to show a bit of it, but I totally understand like the marketing aspect of not doing it. So yeah. I mean, the thing that doesn't have me worried is games like what's it called, Miles Morales, like runs really well on PS4. So I think Horizon's gonna be similar.
Sorry, what did you say?
Me? What
were you saying?
Who?
What were you saying like that? What?
I'm not sure. What? Did I cut up?
No, I was just asking what you were saying because I zoned out for a second.
I just said that I don't think it's gonna be necessarily that bad, the Forbidden West version. Obviously, PS5 is gonna be way better. expecting anything else would be stupid, but I think it's gonna run fine and be very similar to, like I said, Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Would be my guess, because Miles Morales is on both consoles and run perfectly fine. The only thing I know is Miles Morales has very long loads on PS4 and no loads on PS5. So, yeah. I'd imagine a similar situation.
What is Miles Morales? I've never heard of that.
Spider-Man Miles Morales, the launch title, Spider-Man spin-off game they did.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, by Insomniac, and that game launched on both consoles. It's probably the best thing you can compare, I guess, Forbidden West to.
Yeah, I guess so. How long do you think Forbidden West speedruns will be?
See, I don't really know. I mean, if you can play through it really fast, kind of like...
I mean, that's kind of the point of speedrunning, you know?
But, I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn, when you think about it, is quite a long game, but even if you use no glitches or anything like that, you could probably still get a sub 2 hour run, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So even if the main quest is like twice as long as Horizon, you're only looking at a 4 hour speedrun, which still for some is quite long.
In my opinion.
Yeah, but I think it's expected to be long. I mean, my guess is
true.
I mean, it's impossible to say how long it's gonna be because we haven't played it.
Yeah, of course.
I think moving across the map is probably gonna be faster because you're gonna have different machines you can ride, even though I assume Striders are still gonna be the fastest. To be honest, but you also have like gliders and stuff like that, and combat can maybe be slower depending on how buffed machines are or how strong your weapons can be if we're talking like a New Game Plus type of deal. But
yeah, I have very high expectations.
I think at most
the glider and the grappling hooks and stuff.
I think at most it's, and also another thing is just map size. Like, how far do you need to travel from A to B? Zero Dawn's map is not the biggest in the world, so travel time is not that long.
Yeah, and there's also not that many times you really have to ride on mount.
Yeah, so I would say worst case scenario, we could look maybe at a 6 hour speedrun, but more realistically, I would.
If it's that long.
I'm sure if it's that long, we'll have some sort of shorter category, just like I mentioned GTA earlier.
I would probably do like one run every 4 weeks or something at that point, if at all.
I mean, if it's that long, I'm sure we'll find some sort of solution to the problem. I mean, some way of
percent.
that requires a smack cutscene, but yeah. Hopefully Gildan will return.
Yeah, hopefully.
Or we'll have some other dumb thing we can make a meme about.
I mean, we have quite a couple meme speedruns on Zero Dawn, so...
I mean, if you just look at all the speed games out there, there's so many different meme categories. I'm sure something will be memey enough in Forbidden West.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I think in one of the Harry Potter games, they have a category to make McGonagall fall down the stairs. So,
Stair percent.
There will be something.
Heavily injure someone by dropping them down the stairs percent.
Break back percent.
So I think there will be meme categories that might not be smack, but they'll definitely be a meme for sure. Whatever it will be, who knows?
Yeah. Also, Straw Doreen is pinging you in the Discord.
Yeah, I saw it. Increase bitrate. Okay. Well, let's see if I am technical enough to do this. Okay.
Okay, so is the plan still on? Are we still riding if Gildan is not in Forbidden West?
Yes, of course. I mean,
do we have a gun dealer yet, or?
Guns might be a bit much. I mean, I don't know. Never go full American,
I don't want to have guns.
No. It'd be
Guns in Forbidden West.
I mean, there will be guns, I'm sure, but
Yeah, we have guns in Horizon, I mean.
Stormslinger technically a gun in a way, right? It's a rail gun.
I mean, the Deathbringer gun. That's a gun.
Oh yeah, machine gun, yeah. True.
Yeah.
I mean, there are guns, yeah. True. So I'm sure there'll be something in Forbidden West too.
Yeah,
But,
probably.
Exactly how we're gonna ride if Gildan is not in the game, I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Have to come up with a plan for that.
I will at the very least send a very strongly worded letter to Guerrilla Games by carrier pigeon. They need to know I'm serious.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Because that takes dedication.
If you want someone to know you're serious, just send them a letter by carrier pigeon.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you can train a bird, I guess, to deliver a letter, you can train it to everything, right?
Yeah.
Be scared. Next time it might not be a letter.
Next time a grenade might be coming your way.
Potentially. Delivered by hawk. Could be an option. So yeah.
Do you have a favorite skip in the game, or favorite skips?
A favorite skip? I don't know. I mean, I'm always tempted to... I don't know. I mean, I know people usually gravitate towards the ones they have found themselves, but I always feel like I haven't really found the cool ones. But favorite skip, I don't know, probably just the proving skips. I feel like they're pretty cool for what they are. Especially because of how simple they really are to pull off, even if you like, once you understand how they work, they're easy to do.
Yeah,
I like skips to be like that, you know. Like, I like consistency, like over something stupid like Tear Blast Jump or the Scorchers, which on paper, yes, are cool skips, but when you're grinding a category, it's the most annoying thing in the world. So
Mount Yeet. Those are consistent.
The what?
Mount Yeets. One way you
yeah, sure.
override mounts.
They are very consistent indeed.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's why we use them in runs.
Yeah.
2 years after they were found, yeah.
In theory, they have a lot of potential. Like, they can save minutes, but in practice, no one wants to do those halfway through a run.
No, and if they ever become consistent, I'm sure it's gonna warrant it becoming their own category. So yeah, because I feel like that would be, at that point we would reach a point where we would have to consider like a glitchless category or something like that.
I feel like we had this conversation on a stream with Dorian and 34 a bit ago, like about allowing or disallowing Mount Yeets in the main categories.
Yeah, I mean, we just never really talked about it, just because no one has ever done a run with them.
I mean, I've done runs with them when I first started New Game Plus Ultra Hard, but they just never worked.
Yeah, I mean, I know Ozzy also did some attempts like back when they were found, because I think he found a way to go from Gravehorde to Maker's End with it, but he never pulled it off in a run, even close, I think.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there are many Mount Yeets that have been pulled off, but just either never replicated or never replicated more than a few times.
Yeah, there are some one-off glitches that people know about that are just like not gonna happen in runs, I don't think.
Yeah.
And if they ever are, I'm sure we're gonna talk about it, because I think it's fair to say that a lot of the reason why the game is so popular is because of I guess it does have skips, but of the simplicity of it.
Yeah, it's not really out of bounds, frame perfect shenanigans. It's just jump up pillar, easy.
Yeah, like that's something I am quite worried about for like speedruns. Is like, I mean, I'm never really a big fan of like glitches and stuff in speedrun, Because I'm always of the opinion that, hey, they look cool to watch once, and they're cool to, do one time.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But once you've done that and you're starting to grind for a good time, it becomes annoying.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it becomes annoying, but I definitely like games or
it's my
categories.
opinion. It's my
with
opinion. I
less
know
glitches.
that, but for the longest time, I used to say I'm like the the weird speedrunner that is not a fan of glitches. Because
I think a lot of
sometimes
people.
it seems like every speedrunner and every community just want the game to be as broken as possible. Which,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like Horizon because of its, as you said, the less glitchy nature, I guess.
Mm.
And when I do other games, I also typically tend to run no major glitches or glitchless if that's available.
Yeah. And also, I feel like I make videos and stuff and all that now, and my stream is fairly popular, I would say. So there's also the element of, I feel like it needs to be entertaining for the viewers, which I know some people don't like when you bring that up for speedrunning. That viewers should never be a factor, but I think that is important to keep in mind, that the run should also be fun to watch, and a person watching the speedrun needs to be able to relate to the run as well. Because like if you look like a certain Zelda speedruns, I always use Zelda. It's a good example. Those games are so broken that it looks nothing like what you have played when you played the game.
It tends also to be very controversial when the game is like that.
Yeah.
We saw that with Ace and stuff and wrong warping.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it now. Like, Ocarina of Time has died off significantly since Ace was found in the game.
And they did make a separate category at least, which I think was the right call.
They did make it a separate category, but they, when you have such a large community, they also still put Ace as the main category, because Zelda I know in the Zelda community, they just have that belief that fastest categories should always be main category, but you gotta remember, when people first see your leaderboards or first come across the game, the main category is important. Because that's what people are gonna see first. And if they watch Ace and, they see what it is and they're like, then they are turned off from even checking out the other categories.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the problem is with Zelda. I mean, in my opinion, there should always be a category that has, allows everything that isn't, outright cheating.
Unrestricted.
Yeah. There should always be like some sort of unrestricted category, but the main category should be something, I feel like, that most people want to run. And in Zelda, it seems pretty clear if you look at the leaderboards for Ocarina of Time that Ace is not the most popular, but they still present it as it is.
Yeah, and of course the technical accomplishment in making Ace work is amazing, but it does tend to drive people away a little bit when they see you pick up a rock and walk away, and then poof, suddenly you're at the credits.
Yeah. I don't think Horizon is ever going to get to that, personally, because that's something that takes multiple people years to figure out stuff like that, so I don't think there's any worry Horizon would come to that level of broken, but...
Seems unlikely.
But I feel
especially
like...
Especially with how solid the checkpoint system is.
Oh yeah, I don't even think we're ever going to find a way to skip a quest, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because we already have ways to get into every single quest area early in the game.
Yeah.
And nothing progresses.
Yeah. And Zero Dawn skip is like the closest we're gonna get, I feel.
Yeah. And that's also like a fairly unique area, because there's plenty of other places where you can skip fights and the game doesn't break, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel like if we start using... if we were to even found a 100% consistent way of founding those Mount Warps, whatever we call them these days, If they have many names, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of different names. I typically call them Mount Yeats, but
Yeah, Mount Yeats. To be fair, I think that's the best one so far. But yeah, even if we found a way to make that 100% consistent, I don't think I would run it personally. Because I don't think it would be that interesting. It's cool that you can travel faster, but it's not why I run the game, or I guess why I'm interested in it. I feel like we would make a different category, and I also feel like most people that do run the game are also mainly interested in keeping it as intended as possible, I guess.
yeah. I mean, I probably would run it, but I would probably also keep running the, Mount Yeatless categories, just because I think Mount Yeats are very cool. That's probably because
I think they're cool too, and I would probably do like maybe a run or two of it, but it would never be anything I would ever grind, personally.
Yeah. I probably would go close. I might not grind it per se, but I would definitely do at least a bunch of runs of it, but that might just be also because I'm more closely connected, I guess, with discovering Mount Yeats, since I've found a couple as well.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, I guess it's also from my standpoint, I really like to grind categories and really optimize them to get as good times as possible, and push the limit of what's doable. And so consistency and all that is just very important to me.
Yeah, I more so just flick between categories every 2 streams or something. So
yeah, you run a lot of categories.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. I mean, I feel like at this point I've run a lot of categories, but at this point I'm just like down to like 2 categories now, which is New Game Plus Ultra Hard, which I'm gonna get back to soon, and Hundo.
You're gonna be going for 143?
Yeah, I just want to push it as low as possible before Forbidden West.
Yeah, that makes sense.
43, I think 43 is totally doable.
I mean, it is if you look at your song.
Practicing a lot of the new stuff and all that, so I think 43 will definitely happen. It would be nice if I could even get it before New Year's and then just keep at it after that. So yeah, maybe get a mid 143. Could even imagine with current stuff.
Yeah. What do you think is the last minute barrier you could reasonably achieve? 43 or?
I think at 140. I think at some point 142 will happen unless something big is found. 142 that totally seems like it will happen with enough time, but I think 143 is the lowest, probably before Forbidden West. Just because I'd imagine, or I hope Forbidden West takes up, a lot of the playing time, but I always imagine I'm gonna come back and still play the first game,
Yeah, of course.
It's not like I'm gonna completely forget about it unless Forbidden West is that amazing, but...
Yeah. Probably won't be quitting Horizon anytime soon just because Forbidden West comes out, or Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Just because Forbidden West comes out.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't really... I mean, there's been many times where I've said, oh, this is the last minute barrier, and it just keeps getting lower, so... It's weird to say it. I mean, at this point, who knows? Sub 140s might even happen. I don't know.
Is your Summer Best below 140? I don't think so.
Summer Best is... Actually, let me find my splits. I actually forgot. It's been so long since I've had my splits out for that category. I take way too long breaks between running that category. But once I run it, it's like everything I do for a couple of months.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you have seen.
Imagine actually doing runs.
Yeah, who would ever do that?
Doing runs? That's not what I'm speedrunning for.
Yeah, my Summer Best is 142.09. So.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So,
and
what was that?
142.09.
Okay, so...
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit lower, but...
I mean, there's the 8 seconds from the new Healer skip, which I still haven't done in runs. There's 20 seconds from the bomb jumps at Maker's End that could be implemented.
Oh yeah, Aussie route.
Yeah.
Aussie route is something.
So like, if I started doing like all the tricks, because I've been for the longest time mainly been focusing on consistency over everything.
Is there a new Healer skip?
Yeah, the one where you don't take the zip line.
It's not viable on HDD though, so.
Oh.
It is. You can do it on HDD.
You can do it, but on HDD that save takes over 30 seconds or over 20 seconds. So,
It does?
Yeah, that's one of the
I
few.
didn't know. I thought it was because of the invisible wall loading in. I thought that was the issue.
It's one of the few saves in the game on HDD that takes really long.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I didn't realize it was that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like there's. I think there's one or two more because the one I currently remember is the one at Zero Dawn, like the balustrade where you drop down.
The what?
Before Zero Dawn.
What about that one?
If you die there, then it's faster to just let the death animation and the screen fade out than restart from save.
Oh,
because
gotcha.
of how slow the save is.
Yeah, if you restart from save on HDD right after a checkpoint, some of them are really slow.
Yeah.
Same thing even with an SSD on console compared to PC where all of them are just instant.
Yeah, PC is crazy.
Yeah, if you have the right SSD on your PC, it's so quick.
Yeah. Especially sometimes I see the load from like is it like Gaia Prime to Meridian, and it's like 2 seconds, and for me it's over a minute.
Yeah, Gaia Prime to Meridian is probably the longest load in my run as well, and I think it's still 30 or something. With
Yeah.
What's it called? With SSD. So interesting.
Yeah. Did you see what Soft asked in the chat?
Let me see. How were speedruns before load remover were a thing? Yeah. So we started using loadless time in the summer of 2018.
That's quite early, actually. I thought it was later.
No. So it was only half a year after I started running it. So what happened was that Aussie hold the records in any percent and New Game Plus on easy, which were pretty good runs at the time. Let me see. And then Sinful, he did some runs with his SSD and he beat him by only a couple of seconds in one of the categories. I forgot which one. But he had an SSD, and at the time Aussie only had his regular PS4 with HDD. You know how it is.
Yeah, HDD is something.
Yeah, and it was clear as day if you watched both runs that Aussie's run was like way better in terms of gameplay. So somebody finally just counted the loads out, and I think it was that without loads at the time, it was like Aussie's run was like 4 minutes better. There was that big of a gap. Or something like that. That's 3 or 4 minutes. So that obviously started
between HDD and SSD is massive sometimes.
Yeah. And I also, when I started, obviously didn't have an SSD. And Sinful also beat my run in New Game Plus Ultra Hard. And I then was like, okay, I'm gonna buy an SSD so I can compete. I got the record back without the SSD because I got it before it arrived. But that was more down to New Game Plus not being that, or Ultra Hard not being that optimized that still at the time. But then I got my SSD, and then times just dropped so quickly. Because it was like real time. That was leaderboard times at the time. So, but yeah, then summer 2018, like right before I went to the first ESA, we discussed maybe using some sort of loadless time, or we also looked into if the in-game timer could be used at all. But it was just not reliable, and it didn't really remove loads. So, and since we were a small community, I think it was Shaden at the time, Shaden Toad, you know, the other mod.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Thought
do
you meant
runs
Shaden,
anymore.
the Odyssey runner.
No. You know, the other mod that never does runs anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he basically offered up, since we were a small community, that we should just time, you know, runs loadless. And it was like, I was actually against it at first, and I think most people were, because it sounded really tedious. But we ended up doing it anyway. I'm kind of forgot how that whole played out. I would have to read the Discord history.
So did you like take the load time away manually? Like, did you have to look?
Oh yeah, just like we do today for runs that don't use load remover.
Damn.
Like Fleurs runs.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. You just take the run video. Obviously, if it's another runner, you download it, put it in a editing program, and then you know, cut out the loads, stitch it together, and see how long the video is. You know, and there you go, loadless time. Of course, it's definitely not perfect, and it's not 100% accurate. I'll fully admit that, but I think we all agree at this time and point that it's better than real time. So, yeah,
Definitely.
It is a lot of effort, and even so, there was actually the reason why I became a mod in the first place, just to help out Shaden with retiming runs.
I was gonna ask when you became a mod and why, but that answers that, I guess.
Yes. So became a mod and started helping with it, and yeah, I mean, we just did runs, but I feel like most people still focused on real time, because that was what we could see in our splits. Like, the only time loadless was really cared about was when what's it called? If our leaderboard time was close, but like late 2018, it was really only me and Ozzy doing runs, and I was focusing on ultra hard. Ozzy was doing easy, so we didn't really compete.
At the time, story didn't exist, I guess.
No, Storycom was something we changed later on.
When did story get added to the game? Because I don't think that was there right off the bat.
No,
right?
that's the reason why easy was the main category at the beginning. Because I forgot the exact time. I think it's 4 or 5 months after release, Gorilla patched the game to include New Game Plus, and then they added Story and Ultra Hard. Before that, Easy and Very Hard were, you know, the opposite difficulties, or highest, lowest. But in speedrunning, people had obviously focused on Easy and all that, so that kind of stuck. And then Frozen Wilds comes out, but when Frozen Wild came out, the easiest difficulty was then set to Story for those runs, because, you know, Story was the easiest when that came out. So it was kind of split. If you ran main game, you would do easy, and if you ran Frozen Wilds, you would do Story, which was confusing. But
that's a bit weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird, but that was kind of how it was for like a year, I think.
For a year, you kept that for a year.
Probably more than a year, actually, because again, I mean, I guess
when did you guys change that?
That was right before the community like exploded with new runners, so like right before 2020 or early 2020.
Oh yeah, that's then right before I joined as well. Then.
Yeah, like right before a lot of you guys joined, I think. Maybe it's better to just go over the history, I guess, in like a linear fashion. But yeah, so we started using loadless time. We time it manually, but just to go back to the question, most people for the rest of 2018 and most of 2019, everybody was just like, or it was literally only me and Ozzy really doing runs for the most part. Slow Cuber did a couple of runs in 2019, a few others here and there, but mainly only me and Ozzy were doing runs for a while. So we only focused on like on our real time, and we would just retime them for loadless, and even for what's it called? even for a while, let me see, trying to think here. Yeah, even for a while, I didn't even time my runs loadless because my real time was faster than second place loadless time. So I just posted, the real time and didn't bother retiming it if there was no competition.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I was doing pretty much the entirety of 2019, which I guess I now refer to as like the dark age of Horizon speedruns, because for 90% of that year I was the only one running the game, and for like 3 months I didn't even run the game because I was kind of burned out pretty badly, and there was no competition, and I was the only one, so took like a 3-month break and eventually got back.
Really a very big community back then. I mean, still not big today, but bigger, I guess.
There were runners, but it was more like actively running people. It was only me,
Yeah, okay, that makes
the other
sense.
people would just either watch runs or maybe talk in the Discord, like for a few things. But for the most part, it was me doing runs, and Ozzy was mainly. I think he was still doing runs, but of other games like Ratchet and Clank, I think was when he started running that a lot. So I'm not sure if that's
it almost feels like with Ozzy. It almost feels like with Ozzy that he's just playing Ratchet and Clank all the time, and then occasionally just randomly comes back to snag a record or two in Horizon.
Yeah, I don't really know Ozzy how he does it. Or I know he practices a decent amount off stream and all that, but he's just really good at just coming out of nowhere and like do a good run.
Often he doesn't even stream it. Like you'll just see it in the morning, a post in the Discord. Hey, got a new world record.
He does a lot of offline stuff, so it makes sense,
Yeah.
Then what happens next? So yeah, 2019 is pretty quiet and all that, and not really much is going on. Towards the end of 2019, Zero Dawn Skip is discovered, which, sparks new energy into the runs, because, hey, we have a new 1-minute time save, right? So that kind of got me back into really grinding again, and then we reach, late 2019, early 2020, where I start making more, I guess, some of the more dedicated videos to YouTube. One of them being a speedrun tutorial for, at the time, New Game Plus Easy, because that was still the main thing, and a good amount of people watched that, and a good amount of people started doing runs, which I think is where you came in, Fleur.
I also did.
I think
Rob's was one of the first ones as well that came out of that explosion of new runners.
I think what happened was I saw that video you put up because I was at the time interested in getting into Horizon. But then I didn't do runs for a couple months, and afterwards is when I actually started doing runs.
And it's at the time when the new runners come in, and they obviously start asking some questions. Basically, like, one of the leaderboard things was, why is it not story in main game? And new people were like joining every day, and then we were just like, yeah, it's probably about the time we have to, vote on it. And then we voted to make it so that all categories would be story and ultra hard, and it was a pretty clear vote, I think. Some people
there's
wanted
no
it
real
to.
reason.
There were a few. I know Wired Notes was a big proponent to stick with easy because he said story would be too boring to run. But story obviously won out in the vote because the main consensus was story is the fastest, so it should be the difficulty. And if people really want, a more difficult experience, there's ultra hard.
Go to ultra hard, yeah.
Yeah, and it was agreed that, it's not that big of a jump once you know strats and stuff.
Yeah, true.
So that was when that vote happened, and it's also there in the beginning of early 2020 because more new runners came in that people started focusing a bit more on finding strats that would be faster loadless, because at the time
from saves, basically.
Exactly. Remember when I said I was against it back in 2018? that was actually inspired by the runner I talked about earlier, Dark Viper AU, because he moderates GTA 5 speedruns, and they also talked about loadless and that. Because there's the obvious issue when you use loadless time in an open world game, and that is because of fast travels and abusing checkpoints and all that good stuff we do.
Yeah.
You end up finding strats that are faster because there's a loading screen, but it's not faster if the loading screen wasn't there, or if the loading screen was counted, right?
Yeah, but then again, I feel like loadless is still the better option because
I
someone
don't
with a
agree
good
with that
SSD
viewpoint anymore, but that was like one of the things, like back in 2018 when it was first discussed, I was like, we're gonna end up finding strats that are only done because it's faster, because the timer is paused, right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, we started finding them, and there wasn't that many of them, but since, like I said, we focused on real time, and what I meant by that is a lot of those strats weren't used because they didn't save real time, And
Yeah,
since
that
there
makes
weren't
sense.
compensation, people were like, why bother?
Yeah.
And it's not until like Black S comes along and makes the load remover in like, I think it's March 2020, he makes it. That once we have the load remover and we can see the load times and the splits, that was when I personally started, where it's like, okay, let's just use all the loadless stuff now to speed it up, because now we can actually see it while we run. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
then obviously everybody started doing it.
Yeah. Horizon was kind of the first game that I ran on console. And of course, I got used to timing loadless, and I thought that most console games would be timed that way, but apparently a large majority is actually just timed RTA.
Yeah, it's simply because it's, we had tried to make a load remover since we introduced loadless time, but none of us knew how to do it. There was no coding genius in the community before Black S, so so there were attempts. I even tried to learn it at one point, but I'm so inept when it comes to code. That's something I just can't do. Or I could if I really put time into it, but I don't understand it, so we never got a load remover. And again, community was small, barely any runners, so it just kind of faded away until Blagas started watching my stream and was like, and I explained to him why we didn't have a load remover, and then he went on to make it.
Wait, hold up. I'm seeing in chat right now that it's one line of code.
Apparently it's super simple. Blagas tried to explain it to me back when I first installed it for the first time, and I was like, God damn it. It's apparently really simple to write. And that's, I mean, to be fair, since 2018, we obviously talked to people that had made it for other communities. And they were all like, yeah, it's super simple, but, we
The
just
code is
didn't know how
probably
to.
like just you do this and then make that, and it works.
Yeah.
It just works.
Yeah, I mean, that's the lucky thing with Horizon, though, compared to other games, is we have a static loading screen. It doesn't matter what loading it is. It's always says loading in the bottom left corner.
Yeah, that is
Other
very
games
helpful.
doesn't have that. And if I don't know if you followed like Last of Us 2 speedruns, but when you're dealing with an unstatic or a not static loading screen like Last of Us 2, it's a nightmare to make a load remover.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And sadly, for a lot of other console games, developers love having something moving on a loading screen. And who knows, maybe Forbidden West will have a non-static loading screen and loadless becomes impossible.
I mean, I'll still be timing my runs loadless manually, so...
Yeah, but I mean, if we don't have a load remover, I mean, I'm sure leaderboards are gonna be split into PS5 and PS4, because I do think there's gonna be a major gap between the two. That's one prediction, so I assume it will be split between the two. So I would imagine both of them are probably maybe just gonna be RTA. I don't know. We'll see. It's hard to say.
I would hope not. I would hope it's loadless.
I think at least PS5 would probably be RTA, because everybody has to I assume there will be no loading screens on PS5. Just, literally none, because that's what we're seeing in other games on PS5. So.
Yeah, but on PS4, I would hope the game is still loadless, because it would probably be very long loads and very varying loads as well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's obviously this is impossible to say until we get there, but we'll see. Well, that's all I can say. What did you say? Sorry.
No, under 100 more days, and then we're there.
Yeah. So, can't really tell until we play the game and see how it is. But who knows? And I mean, I've also suggested to the few developers that I have talked to, it's like, can you make an accurate in-game timer, please? So who knows? Maybe we'll have that, and we don't even have to worry about it.
Please in-game timer, devs. Please.
Yeah, please, and good in-game timer.
Yeah,
because that would make things so easy. Especially as a moderator.
Yeah, that would make that would save a whole lot of time, I think.
Yeah. So that's the thing I always say, because people always ask why is this game not loadless, or especially if I play Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm like, and I have to say, PS5 is 10 minutes faster, and they're like, why is it not loadless? And it's like, it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah, we got kind of used to it.
Horizon community should be very thankful for its loadless timing.
Yeah,
because not every community would
compete if it weren't for loadless.
I also think Horizon is the only community that does loadless on console that doesn't require you to use a load remover. Because every other console game that I know of that uses a load remover requires you to use a load remover on screen. So, like Crash is a good example. They've been using loadless for a long time as well. But you're not allowed to submit a PS4 stream, for example.
I don't get the rationale behind requiring a load remover on screen. What is the reasoning there?
Because then because the load remover works the same for everyone, it's accurate. There's no human element of retiming the run. And, there are, as I've talked with you about, there are issues when you stream with PS4 where the video can become shorter if you are in low quality or your stream lags a bit. And all of a sudden your run looks faster than it actually is.
Yeah. It's a bit annoying.
Yeah, or if the stream lags or cuts out for a bit and all of a sudden you have a missing loading screen, you won't know how much loading time there was, So I can say in Horizon, we would technically have better leaderboards, and we could even, remove the restart from save loads that are in the game if we enforced the use of the load remover, but
I think it's better to not
because a good amount of our runners, stream like you do. It would limit the amount of people that could run the game. So yeah, and the belief is also that if you are, maybe you're the rare exception to this, Fleur. So be proud of this. But most people that are very serious about speedrunning and grinds enough to reach a top level in a game, they probably are gonna get a capture card and record their runs with that. So, just saying.
I think I'm the only high level runner that doesn't use load remover or capture cards from PS4.
Robs was like that for a while now. Obviously, Robs is like Blegas now. I don't think they're ever gonna run again. Play the sad violin.
Rip Rob.
Right, give me 2 seconds and I'll find sad violin.
And obviously Rob's ended up getting a capture card. But, for a while it was like you and Rob's. They were like that. Yeah, runners lost to time. I mean, to be fair, I've been in the community for so long. Runners come and go, when I started, my main competition was Sinful, so then he's not running anymore.
I don't think I've ever been around to see Sinful running.
No, his last did serious runs in 2018, so
Yeah, I came around mid 2020, so.
He still holds the record for most world records at one time, so...
Wait, what?
I mean,
how many?
When the game has just, well, not
Ozzy is
just come
close to
out,
beating him, though, but I think he needs... I actually don't know. How many does Ozzy hold at the moment? He holds a ton.
Quite many.
Yeah, let me just count out here in speedrun.
So how
1,
many
2,
did
3,
Sinful
4,
have?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So Ozzy has 11. Sinful was 13 at one time.
Holy shit.
Goddamn.
13.
Then
Yes.
again,
At the time, a lot of them
You have-
were. At the time, a lot of them were. What's it called?
Hunting grounds?
No. Hunting grounds are not counted.
Oh,
Because then
Are
Bowser would be
you-
number one, I think.
yeah. And Vasa, of course. Wait.
are you also counting PC times as separate times? No, right?
Yeah, I count them as separate. No, I like in total he has 11 and Sinful had 13. But at the time, there was a leaderboard for every difficulty, so that was a bit of an
Oh.
advantage. Ozzy can do it now
There was
because
a
he's
leaderboard for
console and
every
PC.
difficulty?
The history of the Horizon leaderboards are questionable.
I can tell.
When the game first started out, and you're probably gonna hate this when I tell you this, but for the first month there was a leaderboard for HDD and SSD.
Fuck yeah. That's great.
Yeah, but that got rid of
Nice.
because the first couple of people that ran the leaderboard, because in case you don't know how speedrun.com works, when it's a brand new game and a brand new series, like Horizon, people can submit the game and become the moderator if they're the first to submit it. So the person that first did that just ran the leaderboards really poorly.
But wait, Sheldon Todd was not the one that submitted?
No. He wasn't even the first runner. The first ever speedrun
What?
was Mbati that did the
Mind
first run.
blown.
Wait, who?
Yeah, Mbati. He's still on the leaderboard.
I feel like I've seen him around all the leaderboards, but
Yeah, he has his first run is still on the leaderboard because he only ever did one.
Wait.
But the first ever run was 5 hours, 33 minutes, and 30 seconds and 80%.
Oh,
80% story, I assume.
Yep.
Oh, I'm
He's
bad.
at the
yeah, I
very
see it,
bottom of
yeah.
the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Remember that. I occasionally go down to the bottom of the leaderboard and have a look around there.
Yeah, so he was the first to submit, and so therefore he automatically became moderator. But of course he only did one run and then he left, I think. I wasn't around at the time, so this is only what I've been told.
Yeah.
So, and he didn't care to moderate, so then new people had to step in that wanted to do it. And I believe then it was Visa and Selden Not Link, people that are also on the leaderboard.
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
him.
Selden Not Link did, I think, verify runs, but again, there were some questionable things about how things were done, I think. I think Visa did a great job. He set up the Discord server originally as well, to kind of start a community. But the leaderboards were a bit of a disarray, like weird category names, and like I said, there was...
In what way weird category names?
I think it was just because it was a very inexperienced speedrunner that started them originally. They were called them like Beat the Game and something like that. Or
Beat the game?
What
the fuck?
Yeah, that's kind of the point, isn't it?
to be fair, if you don't know your speedrunning history, any percent has not always been the thing. So if you look at a lot of NES games, there are categories called Beat the Game.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I did not know that. What?
In case you don't know the origin of any percent, I've told this many times on stream, but any percent stems from Super Metroid community. They came up with that term.
Huh.
Because I believe it's Super Metroid. It might be one of the other Metroids. Somebody can correct me in chat. But Super Metroid, when you beat the game, it shows how much percentage you have completed. You know, once you leave the
That
planet.
makes sense. Yeah.
And then they were like, so if we do a speedrun where we just leave the planet, which is, you know, beat the game, they were like, let's just call it any percent, because it's like, you gotta reach that screen that says percentage count, but it doesn't matter what percentage this is, and they called it any percent. And then they made two other categories called 100% and low percent. So Metroid came up with those terms. So that's why games before, a lot of NES games before Metroid, or SNES games before Metroid, are called Beat the Game as their category name.
I never knew that. That's very interesting.
Super Mario Bros, for example, they call it Warps and Wobblers, for example, instead of any percent.
I think
they call it any percent now, because these days any percent is just a dominant term now. But for a while it wasn't like that. So any percent just got adopted over time for other games. Same with Super Mario 64, they don't say any percent, they say 0 star.
Yeah, but I feel like with SM64 it's I don't know, it's kind of different because of
So like for a while in speedrunning, I could be wrong about this, I'm not an expert, but I think for a while in speedrunning, games like use their own terms, For example, I think GTA, they called it all story missions, like their any percent for the longest time, or in Zelda, I think they called it Beat Ganon, for a while.
I think that's what they renamed the category again to now that Ace has been discovered.
I have no idea about that, but yeah. So
It worked real quick.
I'm not sure when any percent became like dominant. It might have been that around the time of speedrun.com got started, but yeah.
Yeah, they changed the name of or I think this is the old category. They changed it back to Defeat Ganon.
Yeah. So yeah, that was what was called before any percent became the term. So any percent sounds cool, but there are some people that have argued that Beat the Game is a better term because a lot of people don't know what any percent means. Like people non-speeders.
I was a bit
but now
confused.
you know where the term comes from.
Yeah.
So
I sometimes make a Google search and then related searches will be, what does any percent mean in speedrunning? A lot of people.
Surprisingly, there's not been a YouTuber, like one of the big speedrun YouTubers, that has actually covered it. I forgot where I learned it from. I think it was from a speedrun podcast. They were talking about it, like the history of speedrunning, with like some really old speedrunners.
90-year-old speedrunner coming onto the podcast.
I mean, there are some old speedrunners out there that have been at it for a long time, so just look at the Doom community, the oldest speedrunning community. They got some old timers that have been doing it for 25 years.
That's a long time to be running a game. I mean, I'm proud of having ran Horizon for over a year, so.
I think Carl explained in a video about Doom. Yeah, but I feel like I could probably do it, but I got other videos I'm working on. But I feel like some of the speedrun YouTubers would get a lot of views if they just made a video and called it "What is any percent?"
Okay.
I just explained it.
What is?
Well, a lot of people seem to Google that.
Yeah, and I think that video would get a lot of views.
Okay. Good video.
I wouldn't be the one to making it. If like Carl Jobst or EasyScape or somebody made it, then sure, it would definitely get a lot of views.
Yeah, but I feel like no matter how you manage the categories, some people will get mad no matter what.
Yeah,
as we've
there's
seen
some
from
people that care
your
a
comment
lot
sections.
about that people care a lot about what's it called? Category names,
Yeah, like the guy that suggested making a category for every weapon combination.
In Horizon?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard about that one.
There was a comment that was like, there should be categories for every combination of weapons, otherwise, someone could use better weapons than another.
Yeah, that's not... Like, I know there's a lot of old school speedrunners that hate when you use percent in every name. That it should just be called smack and not smack percent. Because,
percent sounds more
yeah, I agree. Percent sounds funny. Like, I'm not gonna name names, but there was like in Ghost of Tsushima, that was like a thing. Because there's a category called 2 islands, and people wanted it to call it 2 islands percent, but then debate started.
I think when I started running Horizon, I used to call my VODs a new game, for example, New Game Plus Story, no TFW weapons, because I didn't have Frozen Wilds at the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of people also ask about that, like, was it ever considered to ban those weapons? And it was, once we figured out how good they were. But then we realized how annoying it would be to verify that none of them would be used, or that you would even have any of the coils on your weapons.
Yeah.
And we also realized that your save files kind of bug out if you uninstall the Frozen Wilds. So
yeah, that's not very healthy for some save files.
So therefore it was just like, if anybody is really gonna be interested in speedrunning a game, I am sure they have the Frozen Wilds.
Yeah.
Like, if you like the game enough to speedrun it, then I don't see how you couldn't have the Frozen Wilds. So
I think I remember my game, or my speedrunning file before I got Frozen Wilds kind of breaking when I downloaded Frozen Wilds.
Never heard about that, but yeah. Like,
I couldn't load it anymore because it said something like this. Yeah. I don't remember what happened. Something happened with it, but whatever. I have a better file now anyway, so. Yeah,
I always just keep Frozen Wilds installed. There's only one time I uninstalled it, but then I backed up the saves on like the cloud and USB.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I mean, there are a few categories. There are like 2 or 3 categories that would actually benefit from not having Frozen Wilds.
Any percent new games or any percent story would be faster without Frozen Wilds.
Yeah, because Frozen Wilds guy at Meridian.
Yep.
And there's also Old Cauldrons. Oh, not Old. Yeah, Old Cauldrons actually, I think. Yeah, there's not many, but there's a couple categories that would be 5 to 10 seconds faster, maybe a little bit more if you didn't have Frozen Wilds.
Yeah. But yeah, not enough to, like, if it's the only category you run, then sure, go for it, but then otherwise don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not about to uninstall Frozen Wilds just to do 2 runs of New Game Plus Cauldrons, then switch back to other categories.
Even at this point, I don't think there's any fear of any changes to it, since what's it called? These days you can pretty much only buy the complete edition, especially on PC. So yeah.
I was gonna say something, but now I've forgotten.
That happens way too often.
Yeah. I think it's happened every podcast that I was gonna say something and then I forget.
It has happened every podcast. Can confirm.
Yeah. No, I guess speedrunning, especially for casual viewers, like sometimes, I don't know how to say this, they don't really seem to understand how decisions are made, I guess. Because on the very surface of it, it makes sense that you would ban TFW weapons from certain categories. If you think a little bit more, it's like, why would we ban weapons? If you're gonna speedrun, you probably already have the DLC.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's just a general thing in speedrunning. There's a lot of interest in speedrunning, especially like speedrunning is a very unique thing, I guess, in a way, compared to other gaming things, because a lot of people like the far majority of people that watch speedruns don't actually do speedruns. Whereas, like, people that watch, like, League of Legends or esports or something, they'd probably play the game they watch, or at least they had played it at some point, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, especially I think, why on YouTube you're seeing some people that start to make speedrun content and general speedrun content, like, blow up quite quickly. It's just because there's a lot of people that want information, but not enough information out there about all this stuff. Like I said, why hasn't anybody made a video called what is any percent, right? Answer these basic questions for people, I mean, if nobody's gonna do it once I got some time on my hands, then I might just make that video, right?
If it gets a lot of views, I'll do it.
True. I mean, you can make a lot of money off good views on YouTube. I can tell you that.
Interesting.
So,
Interesting. I've spotted my career path now.
I mean,
Oh, I don't think I'll make it on YouTube. It seems very, very unlikely.
it depends. You just gotta, I guess, find the niche that people are interested enough in, you know? I mean, I don't even know what Horizon for me, like, how that's gonna go. I got some plans, as I've been talking about for a while, but I know nothing has happened, but I've just been so busy lately that I haven't had time to do YouTube and all that, but
It doesn't seem like you're very busy with back-to-back hundo runs.
well, the thing is also I just enjoy streaming so much more than YouTube. But YouTube is what, grows, so I will be putting more effort into it. So that's also the kind of stream making videos I've thought about that stuff. I might start recording
It is
more stuff.
it is good content.
Yeah, I might just start recording some more stuff on stream instead of doing it off stream and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely gonna make like a huge push here, especially once we hit like December and January, February, and then obviously when Forbidden West comes out, and then we'll see where it is, because I am feeling pretty good about it. So
I mean, I would hope Forbidden West is a good game, but
Oh yeah, I mean, I hope so too. But Sony exclusives have a very good track record ever since Horizon Zero Dawn came out. So
yeah,
I think we are safe.
Yeah.
And if one of them is gonna flop and do really badly, I don't think it will be Horizon.
I would hope so.
Because I don't think Sony would let that happen, because they seem to be very willing these days to, at least to their biggest studios, be like, hey, if you need more time, tell us, you get more time. It's not like Sony at the beginning of PS4 where they pushed games out too quickly.
Yeah.
Because I guess Sony also just realizes these days that they what's it called? They realize that they have to focus on quality over quantity, because quantity they're not going to be able to compete with Game Pass. So I think we can for sure say Sony games will be good that come out. At least that's what I think. Especially since, Herman Holst, director of Horizon, is now in charge of the Sony studios. I think the games are in good hands, so I have faith. I'm sure they're gonna slip out at one point, but I don't think Horizon will be the one to do it. Oh, I think it would be one of the smaller studios, if there were one to do it. But we'll see.
By the way, bit of a topic switch, but any plans for a second a second Horizon Cup?
Yes.
Ooh.
Because obviously we only have 100 days.
Oh shit!
So actually, sorry, what is it now? 98 days.
98 days, yeah.
So yeah, we I will hopefully have something next week. I have been working on it, but again, like I said, I'm very
Next
busy.
week?
That's fast.
Oh?
Yeah,
Oh.
we'll announce it further next week. Winter Cup. I mean, I think the name is gonna be obvious like that, yeah. But
Winter Cup 2021.
It
I'm
has
not
to be
ready
winter.
to fully announce it yet. But I would
Wait, we
I
can't.
would hopefully be ready to announce it next week and start signing people up.
We
So,
can't call
yeah.
it Winter Cup because we know the cup is gonna last for like way too
The
long.
cup is
So
gonna
it's
last for
it's
how
gonna
long?
last
If the
until
cup is
the
not
next
done
summer
be-
cup. So we're
If
just
the
gonna
cup
call
is
it.
not done before Forbidden West, then I'll just personally end it. No winner.
Just
So-
call the cup.
Anyway,
Summer
I,
Cup Part
I
2.
see, I'm
Easy.
getting picked up now, by the way,
Oh.
because I have to leave. I
Alright.
forgot about that. But
Alright
because
then.
time just flew by. But sorry to end abruptly.
All good, all good.
Yeah.
Right.
So But hopefully I'll come back sooner rather than later, and we can talk further with some more time.
Yep, that would be
See,
good.
we're starting to run out of guests, so it will probably
we'll
happen.
see.
All right, then.
We'll see. But anyway, I gotta run. But like I said, some announcement sometime next week. Look forward to it.
Yes.
And yeah,
I definitely
it'll
will
be
be
fun.
looking forward to it.
Yes.
Okay.
So see you guys.
See you, Elk. Goodbye.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
Then I think we'll just do the outro.
Bit of an abrupt ending, but
Yeah.
fine.
I completely forgot about the time.
Dude, I didn't even know Elk needed to leave. I just saw it a few minutes ago in the Discord.
Raid Kiter? Alright, we'll raid Kiter. But yeah,
Yeah, he's
thanks
doing
everyone
some
for
TW
coming
hundo.
on and watching the podcast. Appreciate it. And also thanks to Fleur for being a good co-host as always. And we also gotta
No
thank
problem.
Elk for being able to come on the podcast. Yeah. Now for the most important question of the night. What is the deal with airplane food? No one can answer back. And it cannot change my mind. There is no answer.
Still haven't found it out.
This podcast will keep on going until we find out. And that
Yes.
will probably be never. So.
That's the deal with podcast runs forever. This never ends. Even if we die, it just keeps going.
Just like Bob Ross. It just goes on repeat.
Yeah.
Slash raid over Kiter. There we go. So yeah. Thanks again everyone for coming here. And then see ya.